Republicans in Congress who insist upon loading up their spending bills with hundreds of partisan policy mandates, a vast majority of which they know have no chance of passing the Democratic-controlled Senate or being signed into law by President Biden. President Biden continues to work with Republicans with the hopes of keeping the government open. And today is election day in Michigan. The polls actually will close at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, Joe Biden is expected to win Michigan's Democratic primary election today, but there is this homegrown campaign to persuade Michiganders to vote uncommitted. So everybody's going to be watching those polls to determine how many voters actually, Democratic voters that is, vote for Joe Biden or how many vote uncommitted as a show of protest with respect to the way the Biden-Harris administration is treating the war involving Israel and Hamas. And a day after rejecting a congressional map proposed by a bipartisan commission, Democrats in New York unveiled new district lines today designed to help the party retake the House this fall. And in the wake of the decision that doctors and patients have worried about regarding in vitro fertilization, this extremist decision by a Alabama Supreme Court justice, Democrats are moving swiftly to pass a law that would prevent states from determining that in vitro fertilization is basically that an embryo that is created in vitro is a baby. We know that activists and abortion rights advocates have been protesting ever since that decision was handed down last week. And even though it's still early in the primary season, some of the polling that we've seen so far, not reported heavily in the news, is that even though Donald Trump has beaten his opponents, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, he is underperforming. He is underperforming in the first 3 states in which there were primaries or caucuses held. In Iowa, the final polling average showed Trump leading Nikki Haley by 34 points, but he ultimately beat her by only 30 points, with 51% of voters voting for Donald Trump. And again, in New Hampshire, he led in that race with 54% of the votes. That was the projected, but he didn't win by as many points as was projected in New Hampshire, and the same can be said for South Carolina. Lots of pundits are saying that these polling numbers are troubling for Donald Trump and could have a significant and negative impact on him in the general elections. And also in the news today, the former divorce attorney for Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, he was back on the witness stand this afternoon after the judge determined that certain emails he had sent were not protected by the attorney-client privilege. He was grilled by Trump's attorneys and the other co-defendants in that RICO case in Georgia, where he stated on the record that he did not remember when Nathan Wade and Fani Willis began their relationship, even though he had sent emails to Trump's attorneys saying that he had knowledge about when that relationship began. He maintained during his testimony today that he had no knowledge of when the relationship actually began. And on Friday, the judge will hear closing arguments from both attorneys for Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, as well as attorneys for Donald Trump and the other co-defendants. And then he will issue an opinion about whether Fani Willis and Nathan Wade will be disqualified from handling the prosecution of Donald Trump. President Biden says Israel has agreed to pause fighting in Gaza during the Islamic fasting month of Ramadan, which begins in about 2 weeks. But Israel and Hamas both sought today to downplay any progress towards a deal. Have to watch this closely because Joe Biden is out getting people excited that there may be some kind of temporary ceasefire, whereas we know Israel is continuing to maintain that it is going to fight into the bitter end. This is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. Today, Sharon Reed, a journalist and TV host in the Black Network, is joining us, as well as Isaac Wilson. He's a Democratic strategist and chair of the Democratic Party of Florence County, South Carolina. And in hour two, you know what we do in that hour. That's where we go deep, where we dig behind those headlines and bring you those stories people are talking about. And I've been following the case involving 18-year-old Daryl George. He is the young high school student in Texas who has basically been out of school since last year because his dreadlocks, according to now a Texas judge, violated the state's Crown Act and violated his high school's dress code policy. So that decision was handed down last Thursday. Everyone around the country, at least lots of folks that look like me, were shocked or surprised at the judge's determination that Mr. George's very neat and very pinned up dreadlocks were a violation of the school's dress code. We're going to talk in hour two to one of the co-authors of the Crown Act in the state of Texas, Representative Carl Sherman. He actually testified at that hearing on behalf of Daryl George. He explained to the Texas judge what the Crown Act was meant to cover, but despite his very positive testimony in favor of Mr. George still lost that lawsuit, at least at the trial court level. We know his family has vowed to appeal the decision, but it's troubling. It's troubling because when you have the author of a bill testifying as to its legislative intent and how the bill should actually be read, and then you have a judge really substituting his interpretation for that of the legislator, we have a problem because there is a separation in our country. Legislators make laws, and then judges are supposed to interpret those laws, but only when there is some ambiguity with respect to what that law is. And apparently, according to Representative Carl Sherman, there wasn't anything ambiguous about the Crown Act that should have prevented the judge from ruling in favor of 18-year-old Daryl George. So Representative Sherman is going to join us, as well as Professor David Eichard. He's a regular on the show. He's a professor of African American Studies at Vanderbilt. He's going to talk to us about this obsession that this country has with Black hair, Black hairstyles, and why the Crown Act apparently isn't enough to prevent the kind of discrimination against Black folks who wear certain kinds of natural hairstyles. So make sure you stick around for hour two. But here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I am still flabbergasted, upset, just mortified by the comments that Donald Trump made over the weekend when he was at that conservative gathering of Black Republicans. Campaign stop he was making where he vowed to, go after the Black vote, galvanize Black voters all over the country. He also just made some troubling comments during that campaign stop. He repeated lies that he has said throughout his campaign for the president in this season, as well as lies he has made since he started running for president in 2015. Lies that oftentimes I hear Black folks repeating, as well as being repeated over and over in the media. And every chance I get, and I think all of us, we need to take advantage of it to do a fact check on those lies, because they go around the world very quickly, and we have to make sure that the truth is chasing those lies, and hopefully we'll catch those lies and people will start to speak truth rather than repeating the lies. So I'm just going to give you 3 or 4 of the highlights that Donald Trump repeated over the weekend, speaking to those Black conservatives, and lies that he continues to repeat. We have to just keep reminding people they are lies. First, he starts off calling Joe Biden a racist. I don't even know where that comes from. He says that Joe Biden has not worked on behalf of African Americans, has done nothing, is his language, for Black folks. He, on the other hand, Donald Trump, always about him, says he's worked hand in hand with Black folks to create jobs, build buildings, invest in our communities, and expand opportunities and freedom for citizens of every race. Blah, blah, blah. He talks about building lots of buildings. Well, the reality is he has built some buildings, not lots of buildings. And now we know that a lot of what he claims to have built, he didn't build it. His name is leased. He leases the Trump Tower name or the Trump name, and that name is often attached to buildings that he didn't build. But we also know he and his father have a history of discriminating against Black folks and preventing Black folks from living in these so-called buildings that he has built. The Justice Department, in fact, sued the Trump company in 1973. And one of his first appearances in the New York Times was under the headline, Major Landlord Accused of Anti-Black Bias in the City. Now, this article in the New York Times went on to detail how the Justice Department had brought suit in federal court against Donald Trump and his father, charging them with violating the 1968 Fair Housing Act, an act, by the way, that Lyndon B. Johnson signed into law. And it was with respect to 39 buildings through their Trump Management Corporation. So he may have built some buildings, but he definitely did not welcome Black folks living in those buildings. And his racism and discrimination against Blacks in housing was so severe and pervasive that he was sued by the Justice Department. And as a civil rights lawyer, I can tell you the Justice Department does not sue you for discrimination unless they have the receipts. And they had the receipts against Donald Trump and his father and his management company. So that's a lie. One of his second lies is that Black folks had the lowest unemployment during his administration. That's a complete lie. Black unemployment under Donald Trump, the lowest it ever got was 5.3%, and then it went back up to 6.1, which is kind of where it hovered under his administration. To the contrary, under the Biden-Harris administration, we have seen the lowest Black unemployment rate ever, and it's at 4.8%. So Donald Trump, he knows this, and he knows it's a lie, but he knows he can tell that lie and that there will be people that will repeat it. So no, he did not achieve the lowest Black unemployment rate during his administration, not by far. And then we cannot forget that he was a nemesis of the Central Park Five in 1989, how he literally went after these Black and Latino teenagers after they were implicated in attacking a white woman jogging in Central Park in April of 1989. In fact, don't forget this ever, that he took out full-page newspaper ads calling for the death penalty for these Black and brown young teenagers based on implications that they had attacked this white woman, all which ended up being not true. And one of those Central Park Five is now a city council member sitting on the city council in New York. And then there are comments that he made in, allegedly attributed to him in a 1991 book where he's calling Black workers lazy, where he's saying that we can never count his money, statements that he's kind of danced around, but hasn't really ever said that the person who said that he made these statements, he's never ever disputed John O'Donnell, who wrote the book in 1991 and made these statements. So again, when you hear Donald Trump say he has been the best president ever for Black folks, it is a complete lie. And we have the receipts to prove it. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice. Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough, we care enough, we care enough, we care enough.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included when you buy an extended Silver Unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid.
Switch to Straight Talk for plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. Online only. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king. Climate is king.
Do it all by yourself, baby girl. What's your name? Let me come to you. Let me buy you a drink.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
The way we spend our time defines who we are.
We are back and we are tracking today's breaking and trendy news with Sharon Reed and Isaac Wilson. All right, Isaac, in about 45 minutes or so, those polls are going to close in Michigan. Everybody has all eyes on Michigan tonight. Big night, obviously, for Joe Biden. No doubt that he will win the Democratic primary. I think the only other person on the ticket there is Dean Phillips, who we know is going nowhere fast. But there is this whole campaign for voters to vote uncommitted now in the primary as a strategy to put pressure on Biden and Harris to change their policies as it relates to Israel. And then, presuming they meet this laundry list of demands to come around in November and then vote for Biden. What are you expecting tonight in terms of the poll numbers and how Democrats are going to vote in Michigan?
I think we're going to do well. We're going to do as expected, and I think we will exceed some numbers. One thing that people dislike, they dislike Donald Trump. And I think that's what the consensus will be when they get into that voting booth of, do we really want to play politics at this point, that we have democracy on the line? We have a president that is morally competent, have a president that is, trying to help people in this country. You have one that is indicted and on trial, and that is tearing us down at every part. And I think that's what people think about when they get in those curtains and they cast their vote. So the people can uncommit, vote, all that stuff. I don't think it'll be enough people that go in there and do that that'll change the tide of the election tonight.
How dangerous is that, Sharon? I mean, let's assume there's some number of people that will vote uncommitted. I agree with Isaac. I don't think it's going to be near the numbers that have been projected. But just how dangerous of a strategy is that? Like, I'm not going to vote for my candidate. I'm a Democrat. I'm not going to vote for my candidate in the primary, but yet I'm going to try to, I'm going to somehow recover from the primary and then turn out for him in November. Is that a dangerous strategy?
Not right now. I don't think it is right now. I think this is what primaries are for. In some instances, to voice your concerns. I think, when you're talking about the country's largest Arab population, Muslim population, voters too, that people are saying, look, this is that important to me. It's dangerous not to speak up and to continue these policies. And so I think it's not going to hurt Joe Biden, but perhaps it'll give the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, a blueprint of what they need to get done between now and November?
Well, let's talk about that, Isaac, because I don't think Biden is uh, oblivious to the progressive part of the Democratic Party, to the Arab American community in Michigan. He knows that there is a part of the party that wants him to call for a ceasefire. He knows there's a part of the party that wants him to end financial support to Israel and wants to see, it's like a laundry list of things, about 10 things that this uncommitted group wants to see done. So he knows it, but can he do anything about it? Or do you expect he will do anything differently than what he's already done between now and November?
Let's be clear that he has called for a ceasefire several times. Let's be clear in that. Let's be clear that Republicans are stopping him on some matters as well. And there are a group of Republicans that are in somewhat agreeing with him, but they want it the way that they want it. They want separate things instead of bundling it all in one. So I think he understands what he needs to do, but there's only so much that one man can do, even with executive powers, that he can do. Now, I think he needs to come out and put maybe a committee together of some senators, some representatives, and put those people on the front line, because it's a lot for one man to put it all on one man's shoulder to say, hey, he's just going to say something, or he's just going to do this one thing, and things are going to come rattling down. He has to go through the proper channels, and some of those channels have stopped him along the way.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I don't know. Has he? I haven't seen him call for. Well, he has called for a temporary pause in the fighting.
Right.
He has said it's a difficult balance because they're still trying to negotiate the release of hostages. Obviously, this is one of the most complex geopolitical issues facing not just America, but facing the world at this point. I don't know, Sharon. I hear what you're saying. Yes, people have to vote their conscience. They have to vote in a way that expresses their issues. But I think this election with Donald Trump is so significant that I don't want to play around with it. Donald Trump will crush Palestine. They will not exist. He will allow Benjamin Netanyahu to literally, if they have a nuclear bomb or something equivalent to that, to drop it on the Palestinian people. And there is not a good alternative. And not voting for Joe Biden is the worst alternative. And having Donald Trump in office would be disastrous to anyone that wants to see an end to that fighting, to anyone that wants to see those hostages freed. So I too wish things would happen at a more rapid pace. I wish we'd see more peace in that region. I hate to see all those people that are being killed. But I also can imagine that this could be 10 times worse. And under Donald Trump, it will be 10 times worse. So I'm going to be looking to see, we'll all be looking to see what happens in Michigan. A lot on the line. Gretchen Whitmer, who's on a short list, perhaps to be the next president, or at least running for president. People are watching her too, Sharon. What does she have to deliver for the Democratic Party?
I think she has to keep saying nothing, which is what I call her statements when she says, hey, listen, people have a right to voice their opinion, and the president gets it. I think we have to be careful about portraying this community in a way that perhaps is less sophisticated than they are. I think he's right. They're not going to vote for Donald Trump in the general election. They get it. But it's still incredibly important to voice your concern. And the reason they're so concerned is, sure, let's stipulate Joe Biden, President Biden, called for a ceasefire, but he's not really good at his poker face. And I'm not debating whether he actually wants a ceasefire. I'm saying that people aren't stupid and he could do more. And his hands are perhaps tied because of policy that's not being spoken to. A wink and a nod and a lot of history here. But the people who are, many of them, direct descendants of those in the Middle East, okay? This is their community, understand what's going on here. And they don't like Netanyahu, and they don't like, even when this president talks a little bit tough domestically, how they perceive he's speaking to Netanyahu offline.
Yeah, first of all, definitely nobody's suggesting that these people aren't sophisticated. The Arab American population, the Palestinians that live in Michigan, very sophisticated people. But my point is, you're playing with fire, and I don't think they're going to vote for Donald Trump, but they may not vote for Joe Biden. And a no vote for Joe Biden is a yes vote for Donald Trump. And I agree they have a right to speak their minds, but how do you do it in a way that doesn't end up putting you in a worse situation, because it could be worse.
In
When
the
we come forward,
primary.
more,
In the
hold that thought.
primary.
I'll let you respond, Sharon, on the other side. Lots more to get to, but right now I got to take a little break. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Time is the right time. More of Areva Martin in halftime when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A half dozen people have been indicted for multiple crimes affecting dozens of victims across Baltimore City and Baltimore County. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown joined the ATF and Baltimore police to announce the charges against the 6 suspects, including 2 juveniles. Police say the group committed at least 80 crimes between April of 2022 and August of 2023. The alleged crimes include a murder, 2 attempted murders, and multiple carjackings, robberies, assaults, and burglaries. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says they're looking into what led to dozens of migrants found sleeping in cramped conditions in a Queens basement. Adams, who is Black, says the migrants were moved to a shelter and given the proper services after they were found. He says illegal housing is bound to happen as the city struggles with the migrant crisis, and that they have an obligation with the New York City Fire Department and Buildings Department to take necessary action. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Continue to expect heavy delays in Mid-City, now up to 55 minutes from Lincoln Boulevard, as a stalled vehicle remains on the right collective lane of the 10 East before La Brea Avenue. In Rosemead, a stall is currently blocking lanes of the off-ramp on the 10 East to Rosemead Boulevard, with a 15-minute traffic delay coming from City Terrace Drive, Herbert Avenue split. Back in Hollywood's 101 South between Western Avenue, Santa Monica Boulevard split, and Mission Road, heavy traffic continues just shy of 30 minutes for the evening. Watch for an accident on the 405 South before Olympic Pico Boulevard interchange in the center divide, causing a slight heavy delay. And Culver City still has a stall blocking the second lane from the left of the 405 South at Sepulveda Boulevard, Slauson Avenue split, with a 30-minute delay coming from Wilshire Boulevard.
Dive into hibernation mode with a huge deal on deeper sleep during Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. Shop now and save up to $500 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable mattress sets and receive a $300 instant gift for pillows and more. Plus, get free and fast delivery to your door. Restrictions apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
UCLA's women's basketball team got a key win over number 11 Colorado last night. The 8th-ranked Bruins won by 8 at Pauley Pavilion. Bruins guard Kiki Rice had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Bruins improved to 11-5 in the Pac-12. Top 5 women's basketball teams in this week's AP poll: undefeated South Carolina, Ohio State, Texas, Stanford, and Virginia Tech. USC is 7th. A couple of troubling stats the Lakers need to address in a hurry if they're going to make the playoffs. The Lakers have ended the first quarter trailing by double digits 13 times this season. They were down by 17 after the first quarter at Phoenix on Sunday. The Lakers are also the only team among the top 10 in the Western Conference with a losing record on the road. The Lakers are 11-19. They've got some serious work to do over the final 23 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black.
Politics has become so messy lately, it's hard to find a reason to be hopeful. Hi, my name is Shakira. I'd like to tell you why Adam Schiff gives me hope. My parents raised me to take my right to vote seriously, so I try to stay on top of what's going on. I saw Adam Schiff lead the impeachment and insurrection hearings. He seemed like someone I could believe in. Then I actually met him at the MLK parade in South Central LA this year. Adam listened. He cared. I got to see who he is. He understands the struggle we have with the cost of living, all the parents working extra shifts and taking second jobs to get by. He gets the threat to our democracy and our freedoms. Adam Schiff knows how tough things really are for a lot of us, and I believe he's going to do something about it. It gives me hope, but hope isn't enough. We need to vote for Adam Schiff for Senate.
I'm Adam Schiff, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Schiff for Senate.
Oh, this cold.
Honey,
Honey?
honey, you need Dayquil Severe Honey.
Dayquil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Ugh, no, I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try Dayquil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. Dayquil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed.
We are back, and Sharon Reed and Isaac Wilson are here helping me break down today's trending and breaking news. And in hour two, we're going to talk to the Texas legislator responsible for the Crown Act and a professor of African American studies. Why did the judge in Texas rule last Thursday that Daryl George, an 18-year-old student who had very neat dreadlocks, why was the judge's determination that the dreadlocks were a violation of that state's Crown Act? We're going to talk about that and what is it going to take for the dominant culture to recognize that Black hairstyles are okay and should be accepted both in the workplace and school and in other public places. So make sure you stick around for hour two. Okay, Sharon, you were making a comment about Michigan. All eyes are on Michigan. We are watching. The polls will be closing in less than 30 minutes. And the big question is, how big of a vote does Joe Biden get in the Democratic primary? And then we're talking about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has been underperforming in the primaries that he's participated in, although he has been shellacking his opposition.
Yeah, and we don't want to take anything for granted. And I understand the point that you and others are making that, look, you don't want to mess around with this Trump monster. We've already been through Act 1. And Act 2 would be horrific, if not ending things as we know it. All I'm saying is pump the brakes a little bit. It is the primary. This president is not as good as, say, President Obama, 44, was at massaging and speaking to certain issues. Doesn't mean that he's not the consoler in chief and all that. He's good at that. But when it comes to talking to different groups with sincerity and coming up with a blueprint, there's some lacking there from he and perhaps some of his key advisors, let's face it. And so I think this is the perfect opportunity to say, we're not going anywhere. And you have to listen to us too. We have a voting bloc and we have some things that need to be brought to the table. And some would argue that certain people haven't been in the room as this administration has developed its policy and massaged its policy. So I get it, but it's the primary and he's going to easily win, but their voices are going to have to be heard.
And I think, Sharon, two things can be true at the same time. I'm in total agreement with you. If there is a block of the Democratic Party that is, disenchanted then it is the president's job and his advisor's job to address those voters, because we don't want to lose any voters. And at the same time, I do want people to know we cannot play around with this election. Donald Trump is dangerous. He's not only dangerous to Palestinian Americans, Arab Americans, Black Americans, he is dangerous to America, period. Let's talk about South Carolina, Isaac. That's your stumping ground. That's your hometown. Donald Trump led by 28 points going into that primary, but he only won by 20 points. And it's not a huge difference, but they're analyzing how he's doing in all of these primaries, and there is a contingency of Republicans who are not voting for him. He's not performing at the level that a lot of these polls predict. What's happening with the Trump vote?
I think people are finally waking up and saying, hey, Donald Trump is not our guy. And they're saying that Nikki is their alternative here in South Carolina, or whatnot. But I think people are giving these indictments and giving these court cases a chance to play out. They're saying, hold on, let me pump my brakes a little bit. Could this man actually be going to jail? Could he actually be a criminal by the time November comes? So let me pump my brakes and see who I vote for as we get through these primaries. The other thing is that he's really dividing the country with the things that he's saying. And I think people are taking it back on their conscience, saying, whoa, hold on, pump the brakes here again. And I don't want my country to live in a country like that. And I don't want a president who represents me like that. I don't want to be a part of a party like that. So you have those people. But again, like you said, it's not enough, but it is telling to say that some people are not voting for him this time around.
And Sharon, there's the whole group of, well, I should say, there are 3 women who work for Donald Trump who have come together, Republican women, and they are kind of reviving the, never Trump kind of, sentiment that we saw before. Again, probably not enough to cause him not to win the primary, but these 3 women, I'm looking at their names. I'll find their names for you. But basically, these are 3 women that worked under the Trump administration who are now out saying that Trump is dangerous. They are encouraging other Republicans not to vote for him. How powerful do you think those voters, plus you add Liz Cheney and add Mitt Romney and other prominent Republicans, might this be a shift?
I'll speak to the 3 women first. It depends on your point of view. The bar is set so low for some. Where were those 3 women? I don't know. Before he was elected president, he came down that elevator and said some pretty dastardly things back then. So I don't really give them the moral high ground. But if they're speaking to others like them, perhaps it can be enough to keep chipping away and what will be, we believe, a close election. And so that could make the difference. But I just get so disgusted when these former staffers, Trump support, I mean, for everything that, was said about, oh, we might be done, enough is enough. Donald Trump said versions of everything he's saying now back then. And he said horrific, disgusting things back then. It's not like he's doubled down and made it even more potent. Okay, it reeked of misogyny and racism and disgustingness for a long time before he ever infected the Oval Office. So it's just, I know that's not your question, Areva, but it just hurts.
No, it's right here. I found, as you were talking, I was looking for them. It's Alyssa Farrell Griffin,
Yes.
Cassidy Hutchison, and Sarah Matthews. They all worked in Trump's White House. Now they're trying to keep him from getting back in the White House. And you're right. They worked in the White House. They saw a lot of what was happening, and their voices were silent.
Yeah, they jumped off and got off the Titanic just in time. There weren't enough rafts, but they made sure not to stay. 1 hour passed when January 6th kicked off, and now one's been rewarded with a book, another with a spot on The View. And aren't they heroes? And I just don't see it that way. You followed racism to the White House. perhaps looking at your own career or perhaps oblivious to it. Both are disrespectful and disgusting to me. I don't blame them for what comes out of Trump's mouth, but I do blame them for supporting that one.
Yeah, and we have seen that, Isaac. A lot of folks come out after they leave the administration to cash in on it, to write books, to go on a speaking tour, to get, jobs as commentators, hosts, whatever. But they were there. Now some try to justify it by saying, well, I stayed to try to keep, some degree of normalcy, but it just reeks of self-interest. It reeks of people who, when they thought Trump was going to be in power, they wanted to ride his powerful coattails. When they saw him going down, they jumped ship so that they could cash in on being there.
I agree and share those sentiments. It wasn't until they knew that Trump had lost, because before the election, Trump was still saying these things. Nobody came out publicly. Nobody went on a show to say he's wrong. Nobody resigned in year 2 or year 3 when he said what he said or did what he did. It wasn't until he lost, and that was to save their names so they can go on and do, like you said, these incredible things and make it seem like they were the heroes. But if you're gonna stink up the place like that, you might as well stay to the end and be who you are, because now you make me think that you are sheep in wolf's clothing because you stayed that long and waited till this man. So how can I trust you in what you're saying? How can I trust you when you go and do something else? So I'm still going to believe that you are a Trumper because you stayed for 4 years. So anything those 3 women say, I say it with a grain. I hear it with a grain of salt.
And John Bolton, Sharon, was the worst of them. I mean, he was our national security advisor. He was there to protect the nation's security. I mean, that's what you do. And he would not cooperate with Congress. He would not cooperate with the Department of Justice. He did nothing because he did not want anything that was going in that book, to be revealed. And then Bill Barr, co-sign on so much of what Donald Trump did. Then all of a sudden he had a come to Jesus moment. Chris Christie, we can put him in that same boat as well. I mean, the list just kind of goes on. And these folks should not be lauded. Any attack on Trump will take it. But yeah, I don't like the fact that they are making millions of dollars on books or TV deals or whatever, because they were complicit. Let's just call it what it is. They were complicit.
And I think the same thing with Nikki. I think that's why Nikki doesn't get the attraction that she thinks, because you work with this man. You are the same type of person. You just, to be a little bit more subtle with you, but you're the same type of person because you worked along with him. That's why he chose you. He didn't choose you because you were just so smart and elegant. He chose you because he would believe that you would follow along with his extremism, and that's what you did. And now you're saying, oh, I'm different from Donald Trump, but we need a different message. But you have the same thing.
Yeah, and don't forget she raised her hand.
She tries to, she's trying to lie, Sharon, and tell us she stood up to him. But Sharon, look at this. Mitch McConnell. Now, we know what Donald Trump said about his wife. We know what Donald Trump has said about him. But I read an article that says the Mitch people and the Trump people are talking. So you don't hear Trump criticizing Mitch in the way that he typically would, because he's working on getting Mitch McConnell's endorsement. This is a man who, after the January 6th attack, came out and said that Donald Trump was dangerous, that he was subverting our democracy. Now his people are in talks to give him a ringing endorsement.
America, look at your life. Look at your life, America. Mitch McConnell is all about Mitch McConnell. I don't know how you can claim how these people can, with a straight face, say that they love our country. This isn't the kind of loving relationship that I would seek out. His wife resigns not because of what Trump did, but because of his abuse of her husband. Once it's dictated and turned around on them, I mean, remember the Georgia officials who backed him all the way until, was it Gabe Sterling? Their families started getting attacked. Remember that? And then it was, this guy's dangerous. But when certain people who were just trying to help out at precincts didn't do a thing wrong, can't go to the grocery store, had to move out of their modest homes, were getting attacked, nobody cared. Not a single soul cared. Not surprised at Mitch, not surprised at any of them.
No, but I think you're right, Isaac, that that taint has followed Nikki Haley. People see it, and her thought that she could just brush it off obviously didn't work. When we come forward, got to talk about this former divorce attorney for Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. He was in court today testifying some troubling and arguably contradictory testimony, and the judge is going to have to weigh whether Fani Willis, this bold, brilliant prosecutor in Georgia, will be able to stay on this very significant RICO case against Donald Trump and co-defendants. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
City of Los Angeles tenants know these facts about eviction and consumer debt. Tenants can't be evicted if rental arrears are eligible to be treated as consumer debt. Tenants who followed certain COVID-19 pandemic protections under state law can't be evicted for past due rent. Landlords can collect rental arrears in court as consumer debt, but tenants cannot be evicted if they provided a declaration of COVID-19 hardship and paid 25% of rent owed. Learn more at housing.lacity.org. Be informed, be protected, be at home. Do you support public education? More than 38,000 educators at United Teachers Los Angeles do too. Together, we have fought for a better public education for our students and communities, and having you on our side has been essential in our fight for better public schools. Together, we will continue to work for public schools with green spaces, more mental health staff, smaller class sizes at every grade level, and a higher investment in the Black Student Achievement Plan. We are UTLA, and you make us stronger. Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company. THE Health and Wellness Centers, celebrating 50 years since 1974 when it started as THE Clinic for Women. Then THE Clinic for Women became THE Health and Wellness Centers, providing quality care for everyone. Learn more at tohelpeveryone.org.
Environmental justice is racial justice. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
My ride smells just right, just right. Just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. La 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 la. With us 40 days of consistency. Oh no, Febreze car clips right on your pitch. You know my car's my happy place. Keep a smile on my face. And it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La, la.
All right, Sharon and Isaac, some troubling testimony today on the witness stand by the former divorce attorney for Fulton County Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The judge had this attorney himself take the stand again because his name is, let me start off, his name is Terrence Bradley. He is the former divorce attorney for Nathan Wade. In the testimony that was given about a week ago, he didn't answer a lot of questions because he invoked the attorney-client privilege because Nathan Wade was his client when a lot of the information regarding Fani Willis came to his attention. The judge looked at a series of emails between Terrence Bradley and the defense attorneys and determined that the attorney-client privilege didn't apply and that he could answer certain questions. So the judge had him come back to the witness stand today to answer questions. Both sides will get to make closing arguments on Friday. Then the judge will determine if Fani Willis is to be disqualified from this RICO case. I was a little concerned, Sharon, because Terrence Bradley, he's a troubled man, apparently. He was accused of sexually assaulting an employee that worked at the law firm where he and Nathan Wade were, and Nathan Wade apparently severed his relationship with him. He was taken off his case. I don't know if Nathan fired him, but somehow he was no longer representing him. And then he was communicating with Trump's attorneys. Now, I don't know if he was mad at Nathan, but apparently he did tell one of Trump's attorneys in an email that he knew when Fonnie and Nathan began their relationship and that it was before Fonnie Willis hired him. That's become a big sticking point in this whole case, is when did Fonnie Willis hire Nathan Wade? Now, on the stand today, he said he was speculating and that he actually didn't know when their relationship began. I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of his testimony, but it was troubling.
Yeah, as you said, troubling. You're a lot more polite than I am. He was a mess. Okay. I think producers should give him a peach so he can be on the Real Housewives of Atlanta reboot. And I can tell you something, he looked like he was lying a lot, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't speculating. Okay. Just because you're on the phone with someone or you're interested in speaking to another adult. I live with a 12-year-old girl, and sometimes I just want to chat. Sometimes I fall asleep on the phone. The truth is, just because your guy friend or client may brag about someone he's interested in or maybe exaggerate a little bit, I don't know if Mr. Wade did that, it doesn't mean he has knowledge. We went from, did she benefit financially, the district attorney of Fulton County, from hiring Wade? And we know an ex-governor said no to her because the money's not nice. Okay. And the headache's not worth it. He talked about security. And now we're down to the lie. Can this guy, this messy housewife guy, okay, holding a peach, is he the one that the judge is really going to hang this whole case on and say, you know, I think the district attorney and Mr. Wade lied? I don't think so. It's time to move on. She's right. Only in America can predominantly, right, this racketeering case of white guys, okay? White guys basically flip the script and say, no, I'm not indicted. You are. I don't want to hear any more about intimate relations from this woman. And nobody knows but those two people.
Yeah, I'm like you. It's really a shame, but this is what Donald Trump and his team peddles in, this kind of deflection, this kind of distraction. I mean, they love this kind of salacious, presentation. I'm still trying to figure out, though, Sharon and Isaac, we won't know. Why was Terrence Bradley communicating with Trump's attorneys?
Trying to feel
was
important.
He trying to get back at Wade for whatever? I mean, did they have some business dispute? I just don't know why he would insert himself or allow himself to be pulled into this mess. He had to know as a lawyer, if somebody emails you like a question like, when did the district attorney for Fulton County start dating the man that she hired? I would hope a red flag goes up. You're like, I'm not in that. Why didn't he say attorney-client privilege then? Why? I don't know. I don't know how much you've been following this, Isaac, but this guy is troubling to me. And I agree, Sharon. I didn't think about him as a housewife, but he definitely seemed uncomfortable, nervous. So was he lying then or is he lying now? But this is a big distraction, Isaac. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump and his team did this. They did it. We know they did it. We have the receipts. We have the audio. We have the phone calls. We have the witnesses. It would be a travesty of justice for this team to be removed because we know this case could go into limbo. Some new Republican DA may get the case and it might get dismissed.
I think the whole thing is a sham. I think her best line was that, she's not on trial. Donald Trump and his coons are on trial. And Sharon, you gave him a good show. I would think he'd be on Bad Boys of East Coast or West Coast on the Zeus Network, and all they do is fight and be messy. So I would put him there. But I think they're just trying to change that narrative and get it off of Donald Trump and get her out of the way because they know that she has a bombshell of a case. And we got to remember too, this is going to shed light to her election time. And I think they're trying to do more than get her removed from this case. but get her to lose her election as well. So we got to think about that as well and what they're trying to do on the overall scale of things. But it's definitely needs to go away. Nobody cares about her relationship. Does she have the evidence that supports that Donald Trump tried to steal an election with his coons in Georgia? The answer is yes. Let's move on.
Isaac, I'll stipulate too, and I apologize. I said Real Housewives because I do believe Marlo Kenya could have got the truth out of him and said, brother, they could have debunked all of it. But I think he inserted himself, and review covered OJ. How many characters, Faye Resnick, all these people who are suddenly in the know, they want to be part of something big. And I think he was bragging, and then he probably couldn't cash all these checks he had written, and he looks like a fool.
That's okay. I'm going with that. I like that. He was trying to get his book deal.
That's
his reality TV show deal. He was trying to cash in on what little information he had. Now it turns out when you have to hold your hand up and put one hand on the Bible, then you have a come to Jesus moment, because he's a lawyer too. So he does not want to lose his law license. He does not want to be, charged with perjury. So there's a lot on the line for Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. At the end of the day, neither of them are on trial. This is about Donald Trump and his corrupt conduct, and that's where we need to keep our focus. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Sharon. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. You're so brilliant. Next, we're going to be talking about that troubling case involving the Crown Act and a young man wearing some very neat dreadlocks. Make sure you stick around. KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, Sharon. Thank you.
Bye.